colony of Nova Terra sparkled with life under the light of twin suns. Fields of blue-green crops stretched toward the horizon, dotted with the white domes of the human settlement. It had been 15 years since humans first arrived, and now, nearly 3,000 people called this place home. 7-year-old Jun Su ran through the tall grass near his family's research station, his laughter carrying on the warm breeze. His parents were botanical scientists, studying the unique plant life that might one day help feed Earth's growing population. Jun loved exploring the fields and collecting interesting specimens for his small collection. "Jun, don't go too far," his mother called from the doorway of their dome-shaped home. "I won't," he promised, clutching his sample container as he examined a particularly interesting purple flower. That morning had begun like any other day on Nova Terra. But everything changed when the settlement's early warning system detected an approaching spacecraft. It wasn't one of theirs. Colony Director Park called an emergency meeting. "The vessel doesn't match any known human design," she explained, her face serious but calm. "They're broadcasting a signal on multiple frequencies. It appears to be a first contact situation." Jun's father, Dr. Tae Kim, was among those selected to form the welcoming committee. As the colony's lead botanist, he would represent the scientific mission. Jun begged to come along. "This is history happening right in front of us," he pleaded. "Please, Dad." After discussing it with Director Park, they agreed Jun could observe from a safe distance. The presence of a child might even help demonstrate their peaceful intentions. The alien ship landed in the clearing designated for transport vessels. It was sleek and angular, with a metallic surface that shifted colors like oil on water. When the hatch opened, the humans held their breath collectively. The aliens called themselves the Krell. They stood taller than humans, with 4 arms and skin that resembled polished stone. Their translator devices converted their clicking speech into somewhat stilted human language. "We come to observe your settlement," announced the lead alien, who introduced himself as High Commander Drac. "Our Imperium spans many star systems." The meeting seemed to be going well. Director Park explained humanity's peaceful expansion, their scientific missions, and their hope for friendly relations with other intelligent species. The Krell appeared interested, if somewhat aloof. Jun watched, from his position behind the human delegation, fascinated by these creatures from another world. In his excitement, he gathered a small bunch of the vibrant local flowers he'd been collecting earlier. What better welcome gift than showing the aliens the beautiful plants his parents studied? "Jun, stay back," his father whispered urgently, noticing his son's movement. But Jun had already stepped forward. "Welcome to Nova Terra," Jun said, holding out the flowers with a child's earnest smile. "These grow only on our world." Everything happened in seconds. One of the Krell officers, different from the others with darker markings on its armor, flinched at Jun's approach. Perhaps it was the sudden movement, or maybe something about the purple flowers triggered a defensive response. The officer raised a weapon none of the humans had noticed before and fired. A blast of blue plasma energy struck Jun in the chest. The child crumpled to the ground, his collection of flowers scattering across the dirt. "No!" Jun's father screamed, rushing to his son's side. The human delegation froze in horror, then erupted into chaos. Medical personnel sprinted forward while security officers moved protectively in front of their people. The Krell delegation stepped back toward their ship. Rather than showing remorse, High Commander Drac made a series of clicking sounds to his officer, who straightened and holstered the weapon. The small human approached with unknown biological material. Drac stated flatly through the translator. Officer Marek responded to potential threat as trained. "He's a child," he was giving. "You flowers!" Director Park shouted, her diplomatic composure shattered. The medical team worked frantically over Jun's small body. "He's alive, but barely," the lead doctor reported. "We need to get him to the medical dome immediately." As Jun was rushed away on a stretcher, his father running alongside, the Krell returned to their ship without apology. Before the hatch closed, High Commander Drac delivered a final message. "We have evaluated your colony and determined it occupies space within potential Krell expansion zones. You have 20 orbital cycles to evacuate all personnel and surrender this world to the Imperium. Resistance would be... The translator paused, searching for the right word. Unwise. The ship departed, leaving the humans in stunned silence. Within hours, their long-range scanners detected a much larger signal, a Krell battle fleet approaching Nova Terra. In the medical dome, doctors fought to save June's life. The plasma weapon had caused severe damage to his small body. His parents kept vigil by his bed, faces drawn with worry and grief. How could they do this? June's mother whispered, clutching her son's hand. He was just being kind. Director Park entered the medical dome, her expression grim. We've sent an emergency transmission to Earth. The attack on June was recorded by multiple sources. There's no question it was unprovoked. What did Earth say? Dr. Kim asked, not taking his eyes off his son's pale face. They acknowledged receipt. Just that. Director Park hesitated, and they asked specifically about June's condition. None of them knew it yet. But on Earth, an ancient protocol was about to be activated, one that would change the course of human history and show the Krell Imperium exactly what they had awakened by harming a human child. The emergency transmission from Nova Terra reached Earth in just under 4 hours. The quantum communications array, one of the few truly advanced technologies humanity openly displayed, delivered the message directly to the Earth Defense Council headquarters beneath the rebuilt city of Geneva. Admiral Lee sat silently as the footage played on the large screen. The other 11 council members watched with growing horror as the alien fired on young June. When the recording ended with the Krell ultimatum, the room remained silent for several long moments. 20 days, General Rivera finally said, breaking the tension. That's how long before their battle fleet reaches Nova Terra. Our ships in that sector? Asked Councillor Patel. Admiral Yoon, head of the Colonial Defense Force, shook her head. 3 patrol vessels, outgunned at least 30-1 based on the scan data Nova Terra sent. Evacuation options? Councillor Chen asked. Impossible in the time frame, Admiral Yoon replied. Even if we sent every transport we have, we'd only get about 20% of the colonists out before the Krell arrive. The room fell quiet again, as the weight of the situation settled on them. 3,000 lives hung in the balance. A colony 15 years in the making. And young June, fighting for his life in a medical dome millions of kilometers from Earth. Admiral Lee stood up slowly. At 78, he was the oldest serving member of the council. His weathered face had seen more crises than anyone else in the room. There is one option we haven't discussed, he said quietly. Protocol Sleeping Titan. The words sent a ripple through the room. Some of the younger members looked confused, but the older ones straightened in their seats. That's just a myth, General Rivera said, but her tone lacked conviction. Admiral Lee walked to a console at the front of the room. Computer, authorization, Lee, Solomon, Alpha 97 Delta Echo. Initiate file access, Sleeping Titan. The he main screen flickered, then displayed a simple prompt. Additional authorization required. Counselors with level Omega clearance, your authorizations, please. 4 other members of the council stepped forward, each entering their codes. The screen changed, revealing files and schematics that made several council members gasp. What you're seeing isn't supposed to exist, Admiral Lee explained, addressing the younger members. 300 years ago, humanity nearly destroyed itself in the solar wars. When we rebuilt, our leaders made a decision that would shape our destiny. He pulled up historical images. Massive shipyards hidden in asteroid belts, enormous vessels, under construction, technology that looked centuries ahead of what humanity currently used. We built the most powerful fleet in human history, then we deliberately hid it and scaled back our visible technology, he continued. The Sleeping Titan protocol was born from a simple idea. Appear harmless but maintain the capacity to defend ourselves against any threat. The ultimate insurance policy. This can't be real, whispered Councillor Patel, staring at the schematics. These ships, these weapon systems, they're beyond anything we supposedly have. Very real, confirmed Admiral Yoon. I was briefed when I took command 5 years ago. There are crews trained in secret, bases hidden throughout the solar system, everything maintained and updated for generations, waiting for a day we hoped would never come. Admiral Lee nodded grimly. The protocol has strict activation requirements, unanimous council approval, and clear evidence of unprovoked alien aggression against human civilians. In 3 centuries, we've never activated it. He gestured to the frozen image of June falling to the ground. Until now, General Rivera stood up. If these ships are real, why haven't we used them before? We've lost colonists to piracy, to accidents. Because the moment we reveal our true capabilities, everything changes, Admiral Lee interrupted. Our apparent technological regression has been our protection. Other species we've encountered have seen us as non-threatening. Once we activate the fleet, that illusion is shattered forever. The council debated for hours. They reviewed the technology, the tactical plans, the possible consequences. As the discussion continued, updates from Nova Terra arrived. June was still alive, but his condition remained critical. The colony had begun what limited preparations they could, but without substantial military support they stood no chance. Finally, Admiral Lee called for a vote. Before you decide, he said solemnly, understand what this means. For 3 centuries we've presented ourselves to the stars as a young, developing species. The moment we launch these ships, that deception ends. We cannot predict how other species will react when they learn the truth. The vote was unanimous. Within minutes, coded signals spread throughout the solar system. Deep beneath the ice of Europa, in hidden asteroid bases, and in the dark craters of Luna, massive doors began to open. Power systems that had been in standby mode for decades surged to life. In a classified facility beneath the Pacific Ocean, Captain Jin received the activation code she had trained for, but never expected to use. All hands to stations, she ordered, watching as her crew moved with practiced precision. Sleeping Titan is active, this is not a drill. Her vessel, the EDF Vigilant, was one of 30 battleships that formed the core of humanity's hidden fleet, each nearly a kilometer long, with weapon systems that could target with precision across vast distances. They had been built with a single purpose: to ensure humanity's survival. As reports flowed in from across the solar system, Admiral Lee addressed the Earth Defense Council one final time. The fleet will reach Nova Terra 12 hours before the Krell. Our message to the ECO aliens will be simple. You harmed our child. Now face the consequences. In the medical dome on Nova Terra, June's parents sat by their son's bed, unaware that an armada unlike anything in known human history was awakening to answer the attack on their child. His father stroked June's hair, gently. Help is coming, he whispered, not knowing just how true those words were. Hold on, son. Just hold on. The hidden shipyard beneath Europa's thick ice sheet hummed with activity for the first time in decades. Engineers and technicians, who had spent their careers maintaining vessels they never expected to launch, now worked frantically to prepare for departure. In the massive underwater dock, the EDF Dauntless gleamed under the bright lights, its hull absorbing rather than reflecting the illumination, one of many stealth features built into the kilometer-long battleship. Captain Su Jin walked through the vessel's main corridor, her footsteps echoing against the metal floor. Unlike the utilitarian designs of public military ships, the Dauntless's interior was sleek and efficient, with technology that would have seemed like magic to most Earth citizens. Status report, she commanded as she entered the bridge. Her first officer, Commander Kang, stood at attention. All systems operational, Captain. Crew at 97% readiness. The last of the deep sleep personnel are being revived now. The crew of the Dauntless, like all ships in the Hidden Fleet, operated on a rotation system. 1/3 of the personnel were always on active duty, maintaining the ship. The others remained in medical stasis, aging more slowly while preserving their training and skills for the day they might be needed. The quantum drive? Captain Su asked, taking her seat in the command chair. Spooled and ready, Lieutenant Park reported from the engineering station. All tests nominal. We can create a stable wormhole capable of delivering us to Nova Terra Coordinates. Captain Sue nodded, trying to hide her amazement. Despite decades of training simulations, seeing the actual systems come online felt surreal. The quantum drive was perhaps humanity's greatest secret, a propulsion system that created artificial wormholes, allowing near-instantaneous travel across vast distances. The public believed such technology was centuries away from development. Fleet status, she asked. All 30 primary battleships reporting ready, Commander Kang replied. Support vessels and fighter squadrons launching now. Admiral Lee has taken command aboard the Vigilant. On the main view screen, Captain Sue watched as other massive ships emerged from their hiding places throughout the solar system. From the dark side of Luna, from hollowed-out asteroids, from underwater bases on Earth itself, humanity's secret armada awakened. Communications from Admiral Lee, announced the communications officer. Fleet-wide address. Admiral Lee's weathered face appeared on screen. Captains and crews of the sleeping Titan fleet, today we fulfill the purpose for which these ships were built. For 3 centuries, we have hidden our true strength, presenting ourselves to the galaxy as a developing species with limited capabilities. That deception ends today. The Admiral's expression hardened. The Krell Imperium has attacked our colony at Nova Terra. They have harmed a child and threatened our people. In approximately 17 hours, we will arrive at Nova Terra ahead of the Krell fleet. We will position ourselves between their armada and our colony, and we will show them exactly what humanity is capable of. As the address ended, Captain Sue turned to her crew. Battle stations, prepare for quantum jump. On Nova Terra, the colonists worked frantically to prepare whatever defenses they could. Director Park had ordered the construction of emergency bunkers, though she knew they would provide little protection against orbital bombardment. The colony's 3 small defense ships, little more than armed transports, would be no match for the approaching Krell fleet. In the medical dome, June's condition had stabilized, but he remained unconscious. The plasma weapon had caused severe, internal injuries that the colony's doctors struggled to treat with their limited equipment. Any word from Earth? Dr. Kim asked when Director Park came to check on June. She shook her head. Just acknowledgement of our distress call and orders to prepare for possible evacuation. She didn't mention that such an evacuation would be impossible with their limited ships. How is he? Fighting, June's mother said, softly, not taking her eyes off her son. He's always been so strong. Director Park placed a hand on her shoulder. Like all of us, he's a colonist, tougher than he looks. As she left the medical dome, Director Park checked her tablet. The colony's long-range sensors showed the Krell fleet, now just 15 hours away. 37 warships, each bristling with weapons their defenses couldn't hope to withstand. She looked up at the purple-tinged sky of Nova Terra. Whatever help you're sending, Earth, she whispered, it better be something miraculous. Aboard the Krell flagship, High Commander Drac reviewed the battle plans. The human colony would fall quickly. Their scans had confirmed the primitive nature of the settlement. The humans possessed basic interstellar travel, yes, but their weapons technology was rudimentary. The species clearly prioritized scientific advancement over military might. The main settlement will be neutralized first, he instructed his officers. Once resistance ends, landing parties will secure any useful technology and resources. And the inhabitants? Asked his second-in-command. Drac made a dismissive gesture with his upper arms. Those who surrender may be useful for labor. The rest are irrelevant. High Commander, interrupted a sensor officer. Unusual readings near the human colony's moon. Explain, Drac demanded. Energy fluctuations. Similar to theoretical quantum distortion patterns, but that's impossible. The humans don't have... The officer's words were cut short as alarms blared across the bridge. The main view screen showed a sight that Drac's species had only theorized about. Space itself seemed to fold, creating what appeared to be artificial wormholes. And through these impossible tiers in space, ships began to emerge. Not the primitive vessels the Krell had expected from Earth, but massive warships of advanced design. their hulls gleaming with technology the Krell had believed was centuries beyond human capability. Impossible, Drac whispered, his stone-like face showing emotion for the first time. Scan those vessels. The results confirmed his worst fears. The ships carried weapon systems more advanced than anything in the Krell arsenal. Their hulls were composed of alloys the Krell had only begun to develop, and there were dozens of them, positioning themselves in a protective formation around Nova Terra. Message from the human fleet, reported the communications officer, unable to keep the fear from his voice. On the screen appeared the face of an older human male in a uniform unlike any the Krell had seen before. This is Admiral Lee of the Earth Defense Force, the human said, his voice calm but carrying unmistakable authority. You harmed our child. Now you will understand what humanity truly is. High Commander Drac stared at the view screen, his forearms gripping the edges of his command station. The human vessels before him defied everything his intelligence reports had claimed about Earth's capabilities. Instead of the primitive ships his fleet had expected to crush, the Krell now faced an armada of vessels that dwarfed their own in both size and apparent technological sophistication. Impossible, he muttered again, watching as more human ships continued to emerge from the artificial wormholes. How could they have hidden this? His tactical officer's voice shook slightly. High Commander, scans indicate their vessels possess energy shielding at least 3 generations beyond our own. Their weapon systems, we cannot even identify some of them. Admiral Lee's face remained on their communication screen, waiting for a response. Drac straightened his posture, pride overtaking his initial shock. This is High Commander Drac of the Krell Imperium. Your deception changes nothing. This world falls within our expansion zone. You will withdraw or face the consequences. The human showed no reaction. You fired upon a child bringing you flowers. Your fleet threatens a peaceful colony. There will be consequences, Commander, but not for us. The transmission ended. Immediately, alarms blared throughout the Krell flagship. They're targeting our systems, shouted the tactical officer. All vessels reporting weapons locks. Drac had commanded the Imperial fleet for 20 cycles. He had conquered 6 alien worlds and defeated countless enemy vessels. Never had he faced an opponent that genuinely frightened him. Until now. Formation Delta. Prepare to... He never finished the order. A pulse of energy, invisible but detectable on their sensors, swept through the Krell fleet. Ship after ship reported the same effect. Weapon systems offline, engines disabled but life support and artificial gravity still functioning. Not destruction. Neutralization. The human fleet moved with precision, surrounding the helpless Krell vessels. On the flagship's bridge, Drac watched in impotent rage as a small human craft approached their main airlock. They're docking, reported his security chief. Our internal defenses are non-responsive. Drac drew himself up. If they want to board us, they'll find the warriors of the Krell Imperium are not so easily. The bridge doors slid open. 6 humans in sleek combat armor entered, weapons raised but not firing. Their helmets concealed their faces, giving them an almost mechanical appearance. Behind them walked a human female, unarmed but radiating authority. Her dark hair was pulled back tightly, and her eyes surveyed the bridge with cool assessment. Captain Dae Young of the Earth Defense Force, she announced. Your fleet has been neutralized using targeted electromagnetic pulse technology specifically, calibrated to your ship's systems. No permanent damage has been done, Drac snarled. This is an act of war. No, Captain Dae replied calmly. The act of war was firing upon an unarmed child during a diplomatic meeting. I'm here for the officer. Responsible. The bridge crew looked towards Officer Marek, who stood rigidly at his station. I followed protocol, he stated. The small human approached with unknown biological material. Captain Dae stepped closer to him, though the Krell stood a head taller than the human. Something in her bearing made Marek step back involuntarily. Flowers, she said quietly. He brought you flowers. His name is Junsu. He's 7 years old and fighting for his life because of you. 2 of her soldiers moved forward, restraining Marek despite his struggles. What is this? Drac demanded. You cannot simply. We can and we will, Captain Day interrupted. Officer Marek will stand trial for the unprovoked attack on a human child. The rest of you will remain here unharmed until our business is concluded. As they led Marek away, Captain Day turned back to Drac. Admiral Lee wishes to speak with you again. The view screen activated, showing the Admiral's face once more. But now the background had changed. He stood in what appeared to be a medical facility. Behind him, a small figure lay on a bed, surrounded by monitoring equipment. This is Jun Su, Admiral Lee said, his voice grave. The child your officer shot without provocation. I want every member of your fleet to see him. The transmission was being broadcast to all Krell ships. Images of the injured boy, his small chest rising and falling with assisted breathing, visible, burns across his torso from the plasma weapon. We could have destroyed your entire fleet today, continued the Admiral. Our weapons could have vaporized your ships before you had time to send a distress signal to your homeworld. That would have been simple. Admiral Lee's eyes narrowed. But humans aren't simple, Commander Drac. We don't want your destruction. We want justice. And we want understanding. The camera panned, showing Officer Marek now standing under guard next to the Admiral. This officer will face trial for his actions against an innocent child. He will receive due process, something your people denied, young June. The verdict will be determined by evidence and testimony, not by rage or revenge. Drac watched as his officer was led away again. The Admiral continued, Your fleet will remain disabled until proceedings are complete. You may maintain communication with your homeworld, but any attempt to summon reinforcements will be detected and prevented. I suggest you use this time to reconsider your understanding of humanity. The transmission ended, leaving the Krell bridge in stunned silence. On the colony world below, news spread quickly. The mysterious Earth fleet had arrived and neutralized the Krell threat without firing a shot. In the medical dome, Director Park rushed to June's bedside, where his parents had maintained their vigil. You need to see this, she said, activating a tablet. The feed showed the massive Earth vessels positioned protectively around their world. Ships unlike anything the colonists had ever seen, sleek, powerful, and bristling with advanced technology. Where did these come from? Dr. Kim asked in amazement. Earth doesn't have ships like this. Apparently we do, Director Park replied. They're calling it the Sleeping Titan Fleet. It's been hidden for centuries, waiting for a moment just like this. June's mother looked up from her son's bedside. They came for him. For us. They came because of what happened to June, Director Park confirmed. The Earth Defense Council activated some kind of ancient protocol after seeing the recording of the attack. Dr. Kim looked back at his son, still unconscious but stable. All this because they hurt a child. Not just any child, Director Park said softly. A human child. Aboard the EDF Vigilant, Admiral Lee watched as Officer Marek was escorted to the brig. Captain Day Young stood at attention beside him. Was the display effective? She asked. Very, the Admiral replied. The Krell operate on a philosophy of strength. They respect power above all else. Today they've seen ours, not just our military might, but our restraint. Sir, Captain Day said hesitantly, some of the fleet captains are questioning your decision not to engage. The Krell attacked one of our own. Admiral Lee nodded. And if we had destroyed their fleet in retaliation, what message would that send to the galaxy? That humans are just another violent species to be feared? No, Captain. For 3 centuries we've hidden our strength to avoid an arms race with other civilizations. Now that we've been forced to reveal ourselves, we must also show what makes humanity different. He gazed out at the stars visible through the viewing port. We could have answered violence with violence. Instead, we'll answer it with justice. That's the true strength of humanity. Not our weapons or our ships, but our capacity for both righteous fury and measured wisdom. Captain Day smiled slightly. As you said to Commander Drac, now you will understand what humanity truly is. Indeed, Admiral Lee replied, and I believe they're beginning to. 6 months had passed since the day the Krell fleet was neutralized in orbit around Nova Terra. Earth's hidden fleet had escorted the Krell ships to the edge of the system, allowing all but one to return to their homeworld. That remaining vessel, carrying Officer Marek, had been brought to Earth for what would become the first interspecies trial in human history. The Great Hall of Justice in Geneva had been modified for the occasion. The ceiling was raised to accommodate the taller Krell physiology, and environmental systems adjusted to provide the slightly denser atmosphere they preferred. Outside, crowds gathered daily, watching the proceedings on large screens. This wasn't just about one alien who had shot a human child. It was humanity's formal introduction to the wider galactic community. Officer Marek sat in the defendant's area, flanked by both human and Krell legal representatives. The Krell government, after initial protests, had sent a delegation to observe the trial. They claimed to be outraged at the kidnapping of one of their officers, but their real shock was clearly at the revelation of Earth's hidden technological prowess. Dr. Kim took his place at the witness stand. 6 months of advanced medical treatment had saved his son's life, though June still faced a long recovery. Dr. Kim had spent every day at the hospital, dividing his time between caring for his son and preparing for this testimony. Dr. Kim, began the human prosecutor, please describe for the court what happened on the day of first contact. He recounted the events clearly, the Krell arrival, the seemingly peaceful meeting, and then his son's innocent gesture with the flowers. June had been collecting local flowers that morning, Dr. Kim explained, his voice steady despite the pain in his eyes. When the aliens arrived, he was excited. He wanted to welcome them with something beautiful from our new world. The prosecutor nodded. And what happened when your son approached the Krell delegation? Officer Marek drew a weapon and fired without warning, Dr. Kim replied. June fell immediately. The plasma blast burned through his chest, damaging his heart and lungs. If not for our medical team's quick response, he would have died there. Throughout the testimony, Officer Marek remained stoic, his stone-like features betraying little emotion. When it came time for his defense, he stood tall before the court. I acted according to Krell Imperial Protocol, he stated firmly. Unknown approaches with unidentified substances are treated as potential threats. The small human moved suddenly. I responded as trained. Was there any indication the child intended harm? Asked his own Krell advocate, a question designed to establish reasonable doubt. Intent is irrelevant in threat assessment, Marek replied. Only capability and proximity matter. This philosophy, so alien to human thinking, became the center of the trial. Expert witnesses from both species testified about cultural differences in threat perception. Krell society, it emerged, functioned on strict hierarchies of strength. They respected only those who could defend themselves, considering weaker species as natural subordinates. In the observation gallery, High Commander Drac watched with growing unease. He had been permitted to attend as a representative of the Krell military, but what truly disturbed him wasn't the trial itself. It was what he had learned about humans. During his 6 months on Earth, Drac had been allowed controlled access to human cities and institutions. What he discovered contradicted everything the Krell had assumed. Humanity had not, as the Krell believed, developed their technology recently. They had possessed these advanced capabilities for centuries but deliberately concealed them. I still don't understand, he confessed to Admiral Lee during a recess. Why hide your strength? In Krell philosophy, power exists to be demonstrated. Admiral Lee considered his response carefully. After nearly destroying ourselves in the solar wars, we made a choice. We would maintain the capacity to defend ourselves without inviting challenge. Showing restraint isn't weakness, Commander. Drac. Sometimes it's the greatest strength of all. The trial continued for weeks, broadcast to both human colonies and the Krell homeworld. Expert testimony revealed that the Krell had encountered other species before, most of whom they had either subjugated or driven back to their home systems. Humanity was the first to show them both overwhelming power and measured restraint. On the final day before the verdict was announced, a surprise witness was called, Jun Soo himself. The boy entered the courtroom slowly, walking with a slight limp, one of many lingering effects of his injury. At 8 years old now, he seemed both younger and older than his age, his face showing the marks of someone who had faced death and returned. When asked if he was afraid to be in the same room, as Officer Mrek, June shook his head. "I wanted to show him the flowers," he said simply. "They change color with the sunlight. I thought they were beautiful." "And now?" the judge asked gently. "How do you feel about what happened?" June looked directly at the Krell officer. "I was angry at first, but my dad says understanding is better than anger. I want to understand why he was so afraid of flowers." The simple wisdom of the child's words silenced the courtroom. Even Officer Mrek seemed affected, his rigid posture softening almost imperceptibly. When the verdict came, it surprised many. Officer Mrek was found guilty of the attack but sentenced not to punishment, but to education. He would remain on Earth for 5 years, serving as a liaison between humans and Krell, learning about human culture and teaching humans about his own. The sentence acknowledged both responsibility and the possibility of growth. 1 month later, representatives from Earth and the Krell Imperium gathered on the newly constructed peace platform in orbit above Nova Terra. Junsu stood beside his parents, watching as human and Krell leaders signed the first formal treaty between their species. The Treaty of Nova Terra establishes boundaries and protocols for future interactions, announced the Earth diplomatic representative. Both our peoples commit to peaceful resolution of conflicts and cultural exchange. High Commander Drac, now serving as the Krell ambassador to Earth, added, "The Imperium acknowledges humanity's sovereign rights to its colonies and recognizes Earth as an equal power in this sector of space." After the ceremony, June approached Officer Mrek, who would begin his educational sentence on Nova Terra itself. The boy held out his hand, holding a small preservation case containing one of the purple flowers from that fateful day. "These still grow where we first met," June said. "I thought maybe now you'd like to learn about them." Mrek hesitated, then carefully accepted the case with his lower set of hands. "I would like that," he said, the words still unfamiliar on his tongue. "Admiral," Lee watched the exchange from across the room, standing beside Captain Su-Jin of the Dauntless. "Do you think it will last?" she asked quietly. "This peace?" "It will require work," the Admiral replied. "The Krell have spent generations believing strength means domination. We've shown them a different kind of strength." "And the fleet?" Captain Su asked. "Now that the galaxy knows about us?" Admiral Lee smiled slightly. "The sleeping Titan fleet returns to its bases, but not to complete secrecy. We'll maintain a visible defensive presence now, enough to ensure respect while preventing an arms race." Beyond the viewing windows of the peace platform, Earth's mighty vessels prepared to depart. They had served their purpose, not through destruction, but through protection. The ancient protocol, designed centuries ago by humans who hoped it would never be needed, had accomplished exactly what it was meant to do. As for June, the boy who had inadvertently changed the course of human history, he watched the stars with new eyes. His experience had left him with both scars and purpose. In the years to come, he would dedicate himself to understanding other species, becoming one of Earth's most respected xenoanthropologists. "We're not alone out here," he would often say in his lectures, "and we're stronger together than apart. Sometimes it takes a moment of pain to create a lifetime of understanding." The ancient fleet had awakened, but what truly awoke was something far more powerful: humanity's place among the stars.